Welcome to Spill the Tea about weddings. Hi, I'm Teresa.
Hi, I'm Sheila. Hello, welcome to Spill the Tea about weddings with Teresa and Sheila. Hi, I'm Sheila. I am the owner of Finest Details. I am a wedding planner, a wedding florist, and I have an event decor showroom.
Hi there, I'm Teresa, owner of the English Country Barn, a beautiful country chic wedding venue in Magnolia, North Carolina.
Hello, my name is Joey Warren, and I am a professional wedding DJ of 26 years, and I'm so honored to be here with you ladies.
And we are excited.
We are excited to spill the tea, Joey.
Spill the tea.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Right,
I
so
love
let's have a cheers for today, and we are going to spill the tea.
Spill the tea.
Let's see what we talk about today.
I love it.
Well, I say let's talk about Joey and DJs. So when you are working with a couple, what is your best advice for them moving forward? And maybe how to choose a DJ, when to choose a DJ. What do you think is most important advice for them?
That's a very good question. As a DJ, being in the industry for 26 years, I network with a lot of other DJs, so we talk shop. And that question actually came up just a couple weeks ago. And the question was, how far do you book out? I had a DJ ask me that, and the reason he asked me that, he said that he had someone reach out to him last week that wanted to book for July of 27. Well, my response immediately was, well, I just booked one for October of 2027. Now, let me pause there for a second and say this. I don't care how long you've been in a business, you're always going to learn something. And that was a light bulb went off for me because I never really concerned myself with that. But booking that far out can have its advantages for the bride because they're securing everything they need early. So for the bride, yes, I think that's a great thing. If they want to go ahead, let's say, for example, their wedding is in October of 27 and they get engaged Valentine's weekend, which is coming up.
Yeah.
You know, if they wanted to book that far in advance, there is some pros and cons. I do think it's a good thing. The bad part of that is whoever you're booking with, make sure they already have tenure. So that they're going to remain in the business.
Right.
You know, that's the downfall. So you want to make sure, and we have talked before, communication, and talk with them, fill them out. You know, do a little bit of research on your own. You know, look at their track record. Look at and there's nothing wrong to ask. Just like for a job interview, maybe references, because if someone were to ask me for references, I would have no problem doing that. If I did, it's a red flag to the bride.
Right.
So I would give them your number at the English Country Barn. I would give them your number with Finest Details and say, hey guys, check them out. They'll be honest with you. So yes, I like to book out a year. A year and a half is okay with me. I don't really like to go any further than that because, again, on my end, I'm not exactly sure what might happen on the other end. And we've seen that. So that's a long time. But no, to answer your question directly, I think booking in advance for the bride is a great thing because it's better than the opposite. You don't want to wait.
I think it's really difficult, isn't it? I mean, we've discussed this at length that there's pros and cons for everything, because if you have a DJ that you absolutely know you want to use, so if one of my couples said, I think Joey will be a great fit for you, they want to get on the phone with you straight away to make sure they secure the date, because clearly they've already secured the date with us.
Sure.
But we're noticing, particularly with the new generation Gen Z coming in, that we are getting inquiries, even us as venues, 3 to 6 months out.
Yeah.
So we're full this year, and we're getting inquiries for April, May, June, July of 2026.
Right.
So then they go away disappointed. So I think if they really want to use you, or they want to use you, Sheila, as a vendor, booking as far out as they possibly can. Now we're taking bookings at the venue for 2028.
Right.
So obviously they go away armed with their contract and our vendor list. So you might get phone calls from those people saying,
Right.
hey, you know, we've just booked the English Country Bar and we want to do it. The pros and cons are obviously they've then got to financially pay your retainer. So that can all come as a lump sum as well. So some of them are waiting a bit longer. But I think that if you wait a long time, you've got to be aware that you're likely to have to book somebody who might not be your first choice.
You're narrowing your chances down if you wait to hire a DJ that has the experience that you're looking for. Because if a DJ's been in the business long enough and he has a good reputation and he does well with referrals and things of that nature, then more than likely they're going to be booked.
Right.
So then if you wait too long, you're kind of picking from a group maybe that has just, and there's nothing wrong with it, everyone starts somewhere, but it just depends on what you want. And so, yes, that's a very good point. I would not suggest waiting. Maybe once you're 8-9 months out, you already probably want to go ahead and have made those decisions to hire your
Well, I
DJ.
get phone calls often that say, you recommended this person, they're not available. And I think, well, I'm sorry,
Yeah,
but, you know, you're not retained by us as a
sorry.
venue. So, you know,
Right.
you've got, I don't know, 100 venues that you
Right.
possibly could be booked at.
Sure.
So consequently, obviously, you're not, again, there's only 52 weekends in a year, so you're not going to be available for everybody.
Right.
But I personally say to them, if your budget allows, book as far out as you possibly can. But it is
True.
all then down to budget, isn't it? Because everybody has a budget, and whether they
does.
want to spend that retainer now.
It does, and we've talked before, you know, that it's important for the bride to be able to and you're very made a great point in saying this, that they want to put their money where it's most important for them. So if the DJ is something that's important to them, then I would definitely suggest booking early.
When I start with a couple, once we've done their budget, they know what they have to spend in each area, and we know what's the most important things. The first thing we do before we talk about flowers, decor, time of ceremony specifically, is we do vendors.
Yes.
Because I've now spent 2 days this week working with a bride that I've had already for 4 months. But we were focusing on catering and focusing on getting the wedding dress so we could determine, you know, because everything, it has a little order to make sure that we're getting it all
Right.
done.
Sure.
She was down to just hair and makeup. I think we're on our 10th makeup artist that's booked.
That's booked.
All for this one date. And I'm like, oh my gosh, this is going to be a busy weekend. And so thank God we found 2 at the last minute that she's now having conversations with. I feel confident, hopefully by the end of the day we'll have one chosen. But this is where it gets a little tricky. And I say this with a DJ, your photographer, like, do not choose your caterer if you've never tried the food. Always have a tasting. Do not choose a photographer off of a friend's photo book. Meet with that photographer, look at their work and a variety of their work. Same thing with makeup, as I'm like, don't hire somebody that you don't know. Now, if I've worked with them, I can tell you, yes, they're great, they're glamour, they're, you know, simple elegance. Like, I can give my honest feedback, but if I don't know this makeup artist, you know, it's hard for me to stand up and say the quality of work and quality of vendor. Because it's not just a work, but are you showing up on time? Are you fair with your pricing?
A lot of
Is your
factors.
contract, you know, a quality contract? That was mine. It's like, one I know and I can verify for, the other one I don't know. I'm not saying that they're not good, but I'm saying you need to make sure before you get into, because of course they want full payment up front. So I'm like, oh, okay, well then I think you need to do a trial first before you pay a deposit. And I know that's going to take time, but you need to book it quickly. So it's important for vendor selection, to me, to happen early.
Well, let me, and I
But I don't
hope,
have a timeline.
no.
Like, if somebody called me for 29.
Right.
Yeah, I'll
Well,
take it. But
I really want to take, if you don't mind, I'd like to take this opportunity because you just brought something up to me that I really want the brides to understand. And I'm not definitely mentioning any names, but I've seen
Only
some,
privately later, right?
yes, privately later. But I've seen some issues here of late of some brides getting stuck, where they would pay a big deposit and then their vendor would basically, for lack of better words, ghost them and
Yes.
not talk with them.
It's happening.
So I think it's very important, and here's why I think it's important for the bride to do some research on their vendors. Unfortunately, and I mentioned this before on another time that we had spoken, after COVID, a lot of vendors came out in the wedding industry, and the reason they did is because if you want to be a lawyer or a doctor, or if you want to be a teacher, or you have to go to school to get those qualifications. A wedding vendor does not. So a wedding vendor a DJ can pick up a laptop, buy him some speakers, create him a beautiful social media package, and now he's a wedding DJ. Nothing wrong with that. I'm not knocking that. But are they in it for the right reasons?
Or in the long haul.
Sure,
Right.
sure. Are they in it to have that bride's best interest in mind? Are they willing to learn? Are they willing to be a student of someone who's already done it so that they can learn the craft? Are they going to be there long term? So
if you book
brides
them
don't
2 years.
put a lot of money into someone you know nothing about. Okay, that doesn't mean don't book a vendor that you've never heard of. That's okay, but do your research.
I think there's something that's really
'cause that's
important and something that I feel really strongly about is the reason that you and I have curated vendor lists is because we know we can trust those vendors to not let the couple down. They've been in it, they play nicely, they work well and collaboratively, but also that they're trustworthy.
Sure.
And it drives me crazy, and brides, I genuinely mean this, it drives me crazy when I get a long list of vendors that have never been to the venue and we've decided to go completely off the rails and book all of these people who they know nothing about. And I think, why have they done that? So you're on both of our vendor lists, and I feel really strongly that couples should take that vendor list really seriously. And if they've seen mine and they've seen Sheila's, and on both of them they see Joey Warren,
Right.
surely that's a good sign. And then they go and see Joe Bloggs, who they've never seen, nobody recommends him, nobody has heard of him before. And then they write to me and say, Teresa, we've decided we're going to use Joe Bloggs because he's $500. And I think, why have you done this? And then they say, will you approve him? Well, I can neither approve nor disapprove because I have no idea who this person is. And it's not my job as a venue to now go and vet that vendor to make sure that they are not going to ghost them. They're not going to run away with their money. They're going to do a good job. Their equipment works. They're not going to show up at the venue and say, oh, I was told I could plug into your Bluetooth.
Right.
All of those things have happened because they don't take the vendor. And I think, Sheila, don't most venues have a curated vendor list?
Yes. Yeah.
And then you see on social media, I'm looking for a DJ. And you think, so you've got 95 random weirdos from social media
Right.
who are all saying, I can be your DJ. Why didn't you look at the
just
list?
took the words right out of my mouth, because I don't want vendor lists from venues to become a thing of the past.
Right.
Because I
right.
think it's so important. Why is it important? Well, you made some great points. What I'd like to add to that is, which goes along with what you're saying, but it's almost like if a bride books at the English Country Barn and they go to that vendor list and they see me and they see Be Captured and they see Finest Details and well, if they book that vendor, it's almost like an insurance policy for the bride, because you as the venue owner is not going to recommend me if I'm not going to be able to provide a service that is going to be great for the bride, because you, just like us, have a common goal. We want them to leave excited.
I don't want anybody calling me and saying, well,
So-
you recommended
yeah,
them.
so I encourage
it's
vendor
my
lists.
reputation as well by me saying, I absolutely trust Joey to show up and do the job you want him to.
True, true. So vendor lists are very important. I think they hold so much more merit than a social media post.
Right. Well, and I've said several times, as we've talked on the podcast, that and as much as I love social media, I'm on it all the time. I may not post, but I'm one of those that loves to browse. it's also a place that you can create and be anything you want on social media with no merit, no experience.
Right.
And I'm not knocking a new artist because I was one. You were one. Before.
Absolutely.
I mean, when you had the wedding venue, this is your first venue. So we've all had to learn. But I do feel, even though we might not be required to be licensed in all of our areas, I wish it was standard that we'd have to work 2 or 3 years under a professional to be able to be
in a perfect world,
as a professional, right?
That would be great.
So we don't have that. So they are relying off of a post of hundreds of people they don't even know saying, "Oh, this one was great for me." And also we know that you can have, if you have a better connection with someone, they might have had a better experience than somebody else. I mean, I hope that's not what someone would say of me, but it does happen. And I am with you. I absolutely hope that vendor lists will remain a priority in our industry, because those are the ones that you're going to find, the ones that have a built reputation.
Sure.
And there's been venues that I think, oh, I love this venue, I'd love to work there. Well, most venues do require you have at least 3 successful weddings before you can be on the list, and I totally understand that. So it's hard as a vendor to you can't just walk into a venue and say, oh, I'd love to work here. They want to get to know you. They want to see how you interact with their couples.
Right.
So it takes time to get onto a vendor list. And
it does, and that's a great point again. I love this just chatting, because that's a really great point, because earlier in my career, I really tried my best to get on certain vendor lists. I would send packages, or I would send things of that nature. But over the years, I learned, until they see what you do, then you cannot blame them for not doing that. Maybe you can show them some footage. Maybe you hire a videographer and get permission from a bride to get a little clip or something, in your work. So it is difficult to get on vendor lists, but what is so important is once you get on it,
stay on
it.
Yeah.
Respect your venue.
Do the work.
Respect, what you're doing. And on another note, before we go to something else, I want to say this. I really find myself at times wanting to be honest with the bride, but feel like I can't, because she may feel like I'm just trying to sell myself to her. And I've been in positions where I'm not trying to sell myself to you, but, because I've had brides tell me up front, we're shopping. We've even considered not having a DJ. We've got a friend that can run a Bluetooth, a Spotify
and I'm
list.
Like, no.
So that's where, it's all in communication. It's how you come across to them. Because I won't, whether they hire me or not, that's really not my goal, because I've been blessed to be in this business, and we do have a lot of work we can't do because we get a lot of calls. But whether I provide my service for this particular bride or not, and she does go shopping, I want her to be aware of certain things. We had talked earlier about red flags. I want that bride to be prepared to ask the right questions. And I've had brides that I've been booked, I would give them information, let them go out and talk to DJs. They would come back and tell me, you know what, I can't find anyone, everyone's booked. Basically because of what you said earlier, they wait a little bit too late. So what I would tell them is, okay, it's last resort, but I tell you what, let's do. Go to social media, post on there, get your comments, and then let's get back on the phone and I'll help you choose one that I feel like is going to be qualified to do
That's
the
a bit
job.
of a step above, isn't it? That's,
Well,
it's
but
very
again,
helpful.
And the reason I do those type of things is because I've always treated my business as a business. And I was in sales before I was a DJ 26 years ago. And there was the approach, the quote, and the follow-up. And those 3 things are very important. So I don't advertise. So my business comes from referrals. So if I help this bride, even though I didn't play her wedding, then hopefully one day she'll refer me. And then I also know it gives me peace of mind that she's going to have somebody to do the job.
Well, you want me to give you a little tidbit?
Tell
on
me.
my end? Do you know where most brides will choose a DJ off of a wedding they've been to? Not necessarily that the bride said, "Oh, I loved him; he was the best," but they went and they had a great time.
Sure.
They're like, "Oh, I want that DJ." at my
Many
wedding."
times I've had bridesmaids call me and say, "Hey, I was just in a wedding." As a matter of fact, last year we were doing one, and the dance floor was open, and I had to step outside. And when I did, I checked my phone, and I had an email from my website, and I looked at the email really quick, and it said, under the comments, it said, "Hey, I'm at the wedding you're playing right now. Please call me tomorrow."
Oh my goodness.
So she was at she was at one of the tables, and I ended up playing her wedding. A sweet, sweet young lady. So yeah.
And so that, let's talk about, touch a little bit about what you said. So when somebody is choosing their DJ, we have said several times they ask about the date, then they ask the price, which sometimes as a planner, budgeting and price is everything I do.
Right.
But that shouldn't be the first question you ask your DJ or your caterer or your venue.
Right.
Because there's a lot of different elements that create surprise.
Sure.
So for a DJ example, am I doing just your reception, an after party? Am I doing your ceremony? Do you need cocktail hour coverage?
Right.
So, as a couple, that's what you need to know. It's not, is it X amount of dollars, but exactly what services are they providing? Some DJs have a 5-hour contract. Some have an 8-hour contract. Some won't do ceremonies, and some don't provide music for cocktail hour.
Right.
So there's a lot of things that come in the price. So if that was one bit of advice that couples would get from me, is not let the ending number be the deciding factor. Like compare apples to apples on what services you're providing, how many hours are you there, what is your flexibility on your music list. Like there's so many other things, because when you get to the end, if you really, really, really love this DJ and they offer everything that you have, $300 and having confidence in that person is a very low number.
Well, also experience. I mean, you can get a DJ saying, "I'll do your wedding for $500."
I see that.
Who has had maybe one wedding that they played for their brother-in-law, and they've had no experience whatsoever in the things that happen. And I think that's something that, whilst we all avoid our couples knowing about things that happen on wedding day so that they are oblivious and everything's perfect, we all know things happen. And that experience is what is so valuable, isn't it, really? I mean, whether it's a planner's experience or a DJ's experience, if something goes wrong and you can manage it because you've had the experience before, that's worth so much, for me, worth so much more money than just saying, okay, well, the DJ can play. Because, I mean, if you've got a weather situation or an equipment failure or, I don't know, you feel rough that day, as a professional, even if you felt sick, you're going to power through and do it, because that's how a professional acts. Whereas you might have somebody who's been in it 5 minutes, "No, I don't feel great, I'm just not coming," or "I'm just going to go home early," or those things happen. And I think that couples need to understand that whilst we all try and avoid stressing them out on their day, stuff happens every wedding. And that experience is, I mean, for a planner,
they don't know.
No,
we
exactly.
Just take care
but
of
the
it.
reason that they don't know is because you're so experienced at managing all those situations. So it just goes in the flow of the day, doesn't it, really?
It does. And again, a great point, because the experience is everything. Now, that being said, I'm not discouraging anyone from starting and becoming a DJ. Don't let that stop you if that's what you want to do, because we all started somewhere. I was blessed early in my career to be mentored, and I really paid attention. I always said you have to be a student of someone who is already successful, and I took that seriously. And then I would see things, and then I would say incorporate them, and that's what we got to do. So yes, things are going to happen. It's how you handle those things that make the difference. That's gold right there. Advice for DJs with brides. As we've said, just make sure that any vendor that you choose, not just a DJ, has that experience. And if not, talk to them a little bit and make sure, you made a very good point, don't just say, well, I need you for 5 hours, and what's your quote for 5 hours? Well, what are we going to do in those 5 hours? Are
Right.
we going to do ceremony, cocktail hour, and reception? What are we going to do with those 5 hours? Where are the locations of what's going to take place on the grounds of the venue? What kind of equipment do I need? Where's my outlets? And we've talked about that sort of thing. But those little things can be huge at the time of that moment, at that day. But it's how you handle it if it does not go correct.
Well, and let me add this. Most of the time when the couple's reaching out to you, they don't know their timeline yet. So they're like, do I need 5 hours? You know, because
Right.
I've had them come to me that they've already got the venue, they've already got the photographer, now they're
Right.
working on the planner.
Right.
And I look and I said, well, you only have your photographer for 5 hours. And they said, oh, that's plenty. I got a good deal. And I'm like, so you're not doing any photos prior to your ceremony? And they're like, oh, yeah.
Right.
And then I'm explaining to them how 5 hours in photographer world isn't going to give them this 200-page photo album, right?
Well,
and so they may not have
They may
all
not.
that
They
information.
may not. Well, what I would suggest to the bride, advice to the bride, and I do this a lot because they, especially if they're booking like for October of 27, you may not have your itinerary, you may not have your exact times. So let's do this. Tradition, and I think you guys will agree with me on this. Tradition, allow an hour for the ceremony, never takes that, but allow an hour for cocktail, 4-hour reception.
Yep.
So that's 6 hours. Now,
6 hours.
I'll send them a quote for that. But in that quote, I will say times can be changed and price can be adjusted.
Yeah.
Because they don't know. But at least they've locked in their DJ. They have them for that day, but they have the option to change those hours. So instead of 5 or 4 to 10, it might be 5 to 9. We don't know.
Right.
And a lot
And
of
some
it
of those
depends
things
on
might be
the
if they're having a
photographer
dry
and-
wedding as well, because if it's a dry wedding, people might go home earlier.
Sure, and two, like it may depend on the photographer a lot because you know, sunset pictures and things of that nature, and that's another a role that the DJ really needs to play and to be able to understand, because if you've got an itinerary that's boom, 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 and what I mean by that is 6:30 to 6:35, 6:40.
Yeah.
Okay,
Too much.
but that sun's going down, okay, and they want that picture, then the DJ needs to be able to be flexible enough to say, okay, we'll make that time up that we're losing a little bit later in the timeline.
Right.
Because that picture's important, but then you have to know how to, as a DJ, read your room, entertain your guests while that's going on. So yes, that's just
So,
very
Jerry,
important.
what's your favourite part of the wedding?
You know, it's funny you asked me that. I used to say this, and I still feel this way. Playing music is like giving a gift on Christmas morning, because when you play that song, their face lights up, and it's just joy. It's a craft. I could never sing, I could never play an instrument, but I was in sales, so I love to talk and to entertain. So, yeah, that and also to be able to sit back at the end of the night and say memories were made here tonight. When Grandpa comes up and says thank you for that dinner music, you know, it was right into everybody's wheelhouse. The bride, if she's, will come up and say money well spent. And they walk away, and I'll have people come up to me. I'm playing weddings now for people that I played. I'm playing their children's weddings.
Yeah.
So, you know, as a matter of fact, I just booked one last week, and I played her wedding, and her children's getting married now. So, that longevity is my favorite part.
And do you have a favourite song you like to play?
I have a lot of favorite songs I don't want to play. No, if I had to answer that question, it's not really what I like. People ask me all the time, what music do you listen to when you're at home by yourself? We'll keep that quiet for a later date. But no, it's what they like and the joy they get from
But there
that.
must be some songs you know are crowd pleasers are going to get.
Oh, absolutely.
them
No,
up.
they're in the DJ world, they're called bangers. And you know, you have certain songs that work at a certain time.
Right.
And it's going to work 99% of the time. But there is a craft to finding a song that nobody has asked for, but you know they're going to react to it, and they're going to love it, and it flows and it fits. And then when you get a playlist from a bride, and I tell my brides, as a matter of fact, it's in my contract, I get a Spotify playlist. There may be 3 hours worth of music on there. And I tell them up front, we're going to take this music, incorporate it in the night where we feel like it's going to fit the best, and then we're going to also add songs in between it to make it flow. So
you do have creative control.
You do to a certain extent, and a DJ, most DJs will tell you, I'm one of the most honest in the world, because I feel like it's not a craft that you keep secret. But DJs normally play in sets, and they play what I call a roller coaster. So they'll start here, they'll go here, and then when you get to the peak of that, you know that your guests are tired. They're going to want to drink, they're going to want to rest for a second, so then you come and you go here, and then you bring it right back up. So you're going through the evening like this. And it's also very important, and I've got a lot of friends who are photographers, it's very important for the DJ also to know what to do so that that photographer or that videographer can get good shots. Because we have seen weddings before that we know the guests are not going to stay that long. I may only have a really hot 30 minutes.
Oh,
so,
really?
Yeah, so I'm going to play for that 30 minutes, and I'm going to give it everything I got so that they can get plenty of footage and plenty of shots. So that's important too. So you got to know how to read your room. You got to know how to do that, and you can learn. So don't get discouraged if you're a DJ out there listening and you say, well, you know what? That sounds like that's overwhelming. Be yourself, but pay attention to other wedding professionals and take good advice and treat your brides like gold.
And with respect.
And absolute respect. So.
Well, again, thank you for visiting with us.
Thank you. I hope I spilled enough tea.
Well, you can always come back again sometime.
I would
and
love
spill
to
some
come
more.
back. I would love to come back. I got so much that I would love to talk about.
And we've loved having you for sure.
And you gave great advice to couples.
Well, thank you.
That are looking for
And upcoming DJs, you know, because I mean, I believe we're never too proud to learn something.
No.
And it's always important to take, because often we'll sit here and think, oh, I didn't think about that before.
Yes.
And it's a really good idea, especially for us to see it from your world.
Right.
Because obviously you see it from a DJ's perspective and how things work and flow. And it's so important, isn't it, really, to see it from everybody's perspective. Well, thank you, Joey.
Oh, thank you so much.
you.
It has been a pleasure.
And don't forget to like, follow, share, and subscribe. Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.